Hey guys, this is John. I hope everyone's having a good Sunday, and welcome to Endgame Exploration number 1. This is the first part in just a loose series on endgames I'm planning because I'm pretty fascinated by endgames, and I think studying endgames, trying to solve them regularly, will improve your chess regardless of your level. So my first example is actually from a Blitz game I played. This is Blitz game number 238, posted less than a week ago. I was playing Blitz Maniac, who is a very good blitz player on ICC. And I was white in this position. It was an interesting game where I was defending throughout. And in this position, I play the move rook takes d3. So I would like for you guys, if you're interested, to try to figure out what should happen after black plays the move rook g3 check. So if black were to play rook g3 check, as my opponent did in this position, what will happen? And how should the game go with best play? Because this is a position you can solve concretely if you're diligent enough. So after rook g3 check, how should the game go and what should be the correct result, assuming best play for both sides? You can pause your recording and try to figure out that question right now. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the solution. I just find this example fascinating because it shows that even the simplest of endgames in chess can be more complex than what meets the eye. So this position will resolve to a king and pawn versus king and pawn scenario, but the result of that scenario, in my opinion, is rather surprising. And it took a comment from a viewer for me to even notice what the correct result should be. And this is after I played the game and after I analyzed the game too, just very quickly as I do in my post-game analysis. So the game proceeded, rook g3 check, king e4, rook takes d3, king takes d3, king g5. I suspect many of you reached this position in your analysis, black just swapping rooks and then going after the f5 pawn. Now here, white can either make a break for black's b pawn right away via one of these routes, or they can play as I did in the game, king e4, first coming at the f5 pawn to protect it. It honestly doesn't matter whether white plays king c3, king d4, king e4. They'll all resolve to the same position. So we'll follow my move, king e4. And then black correctly played f6. Now here, because I don't have a useful waiting move, I have to make a break for black's b pawn with my king. If I were to stick around in front of the f pawn, this is going to be losing. So white's only chance is to go after black's b pawn and try to create a passed pawn of my own. So that's what I did, king d5. King takes f5, king c5. Okay, so if you reach this position in your analysis, that's already pretty good. Now, interestingly, the accuracy of black's next move will completely determine the result of the game. So black has several moves available with the king. How many moves is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 possible king moves. Only one of them wins. All the other ones draw. Of course, b4 doesn't make any sense, so we'll rule out that one. In the game, black played the move king e5, so let's first look at that. And now, I should say that we started this endgame with less than 20 seconds on the clock each, so it was very much just a rapid-fire, back-and-forth, typical blitz game at the end. So my opponent played king e5. I took on b5. He advanced f5. Now, here's where I blew the game because I played a4, which is an incredibly natural move, but it just loses. And a viewer on my channel who goes by the name of JacksonColbertNation, so JacksonColbertNation, thank you for being the inspiration for this video, but JacksonColbertNation pointed out that king c4 actually draws. We'll see why in a second, but my move a4 just led to a pure pawn race, f4, a5, f3, a6, f2, and the problem for white is that black queens would check. So I played a7, he queens would check. I have to take a moment to move my king, and he played queen f3 and then got back to the a8 square. He also could have played queen a6 check and just won the pawn. Both lines are winning. So that's the problem with just pushing the pawn right away. Like I said, we were very low on time. Neither of us really had a chance to calculate. We were just playing this endgame by feel. So the draw could have been secured by king c4. where white attempts to come back to defend against the advancing black f-pawn. And even though after king e4, black can play to shoulder the white king out, like literally shove the white king out of the way so it can't reach here, white still persists in trying to play a4. And then after f4, this accurate move king c3, trying to come around the black king to get to f1. And if black plays f3, white will just play king d2 and be able to draw because we'll reach that f1 square. So king e3 is the only move to continue trying to win for black. But now after a5, f3, a6, f2, a7, both sides will queen, and there's no win for black because black did not queen with check. There was no check on the king that I encountered in the game. So that line would have led to a draw if I had played this very accurate move, king c4, right now, instead of the more natural pawn push, a4. Now, let's take a look at the winning line. The winning line, paradoxically in this position, is for black to not go at the white king at all. So I think most people would play a move like king e5 or king e4, which we'll look at in a second. But paradoxically, king g4 is the only winning move for black. And the point is that after king takes b5 and f5, black is still threatening to queen with check. So if we just get into a pawn pushing battle, as we did in the game, white will still lose. But the difference is that now, if white tries to bring their king back in defense, black's king is on the correct side of the pawn in order to assist in its promotion. So for instance here, f3, let's say king e3, and now king g3. And white's pawn is not nearly far enough to create a fuss, so white will just lose. For instance, a4, f2, king e2, king g2, and black wins. So this king g4 move, in my opinion, is a very unnatural move, but it just goes to show you how precisely you have to calculate and play certain endgames, even as simple as king and pawn versus king. Because even with a lot of time on the clock, king g4 would still be a difficult move to calculate, especially from several moves back when we were first deciding to go into this endgame. By the way, another logical try that at first sight looks like it should work for black but actually fails is king e4. This one looks kind of attractive in that after king takes b5, f5, black is shouldering the white king from coming back. However, the problem is revealed after a4, f4, a5, f3, a6, f2, a7, f1 queen. Black can even queen with check. But after king b6, it's unfortunate that black's own king prevents his queen from controlling the a8 square. So in the game, we reached this position, or very, very close to it, but the black king was on e5, and my opponent took advantage of that by playing queen f3, and then he got the queen to a8. But here you can see that black's own queen is blocking the h1 to a8 diagonal, so he's unable to control a8. He'd have to go something like, let's say queen f8, but then after king b7, this is a theoretical draw. White is always threatening the queen. If you're not sure why this is a draw, you can consult an endgame book, because this is a very common type of endgame with the pawn on the 7th rank. And with a rook pawn against a queen, the pawn on the 7th rank is a draw, provided the defending or the offensive king is not too close. So yeah, so going back to that critical position, it just still fascinates me that right here, king g4 is the only move that gets the job done based on those lines that we looked at. And the natural moves like king e5, king e4, maybe even king e6 to some extent, those all don't work. So hope you guys enjoyed this little snippet of analysis. I think it's worth your time to calculate this out. By the way, from the beginning, instead of rook takes d3, I should have played something like rook b1, attacking the b pawn, avoiding a direct transition into a king and pawn endgame. And with best play, I think this should be a draw. I don't think black should be able to win this rook endgame. So please leave me any feedback in the comments if you have it, or if you want to gloat that you got this one correct and actually saw that line with king g4. Regardless, I hope this was interesting to you, and I'll be back again in the future with another endgame exploration. Bye, guys.